Andre rushed through the crowded airport terminal, his worn leather duffel bag bouncing against his hip with each hurried step. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he glanced at his watch for what felt like the 100th time. The interview was tomorrow, morning at 9, and this was the last flight to Atlanta tonight. If he missed it, everything he'd worked for these past few months would crumble away. Final boarding call for Flight 2473 to Atlanta. The announcement blared overhead, the calm female voice somehow making his panic worse. Andre picked up his pace, weaving between families with luggage carts and business people rolling sleek carry-ons. The airport was especially busy for a Thursday evening. A group of college students laughed loudly as they blocked most of the walkway, forcing him to squeeze past them with a quick, "Excuse me?" His mind raced faster than his feet. This job interview was everything. 6 months of unemployment had drained his savings to almost nothing. The rent was 2 weeks late, and his landlord's patience was wearing thinner than the soles of his dress shoes. The recruiting agency had called him yesterday with this opportunity, a marketing position at a growing tech company. The pay would solve all his problems, and the work matched his skills perfectly. "Gate C26, Gate C26, Andre mumbled to himself, scanning the signs hanging from the ceiling. He was in Terminal B. He had to hurry. The moving walkway offered a brief moment of relief as he caught his breath. Setting his bag down between his feet, he pulled out his phone to check the boarding pass again. Yep, C26 departing at 7:15 p.m. It was 7:08 now. Andre stepped off the walkway and continued his race through the airport. He passed a coffee shop where the rich scent of espresso momentarily distracted him, reminding him he hadn't eaten since breakfast. His stomach growled, but there was no time. As he rounded the corner toward the terminal connector, something caught his eye. An elderly woman was struggling with a large suitcase that had tipped over. She was trying to bend down to grab it, but her movements were stiff and pained. People streamed past her on both sides, some giving annoyed glances as they maneuvered around the obstacle, but no one stopped. Andre hesitated. The boarding gate was just down the corridor and to the right. Maybe someone else would help her. He took a few more steps, then glanced back. The woman had managed to kneel down, but now she couldn't seem to get the suitcase upright. Her hands trembled as she pushed ineffectively at the heavy bag. "Last call for boarding. Flight 2473 to Atlanta." The announcement came again. Andre closed his eyes for a second. His mother's voice echoed in his head. "Always do right by people, especially those who can't help themselves. That's what makes you who you are." With a deep breath, he turned around. "Ma'am, can I help you with that?" Andre approached the woman with a gentle smile, already setting his own bag down. The relief on her face was immediate and profound. "Oh, thank you, young man. I don't know what happened. 1 minute I was rolling along and the next everything went sideways." Andre easily lifted her suitcase, setting it upright on its wheels. "There you go. This is a pretty big bag to handle on your own." The woman was probably in her late 70s with soft white hair pulled back in a neat bun. She wore a light blue sweater despite the warm weather, and her kind eyes crinkled at the corners when she smiled up at him. "My grandson always tells me I pack too much, but how am I supposed to visit for 2 weeks with just a tiny bag?" She adjusted her glasses, which had slid down her nose. "I'm Rose, by the way." "Andre, nice to meet you." He glanced toward his gate, where he could see the last few passengers handing their boarding passes to the attendant. "Are you okay from here?" Rose's face fell slightly. "Actually, I'm a bit lost. My daughter was supposed to meet me, but I can't find her anywhere. I tried calling, but my phone isn't working right." She fumbled in her purse, pulling out an older model flip phone. "I don't understand these new gadgets." Andre checked his watch again. 7:12. His heart sank as he looked from the gate to Rose's worried face. The right thing to do was crystal clear, even as a voice in the back of his mind screamed about the consequences. "Let me see if I can help you find your daughter," he said, surprising himself with how calm he sounded. "Do you know where she was supposed to meet you?" "By the baggage claim, I think. But I got turned around after I picked up my suitcase." Rose's eyes became watery. "Everything looks the same in these big airports." Andre nodded, making a quick decision. "Baggage claim is back the way I came. I can walk you there." "Oh, I couldn't ask you to do that." You seem to be in a hurry. Rose gestured toward his gate. It's all right. The words came out before he could stop them. I've got time. It was a lie, but somehow it felt like the truth. He picked up his duffel and then took hold of Rose's suitcase handle. Let's go find your daughter. As they walked, Rose told him about her visit. She was coming to see her daughter and grandkids for her grandson's high school graduation. She lived alone in a small town 3 states away, and only made the trip once or twice a year. Daniel, that's my grandson. He's going to study engineering. First one in the family to go to college. The pride in her voice was unmistakable. That's wonderful, Andre replied, genuinely interested despite his circumstances. Education changes everything. They reached the escalator leading down to baggage claim. Andre carefully helped Rose step onto it, making sure she had a firm grip on the handrail before letting go. What about you? Where are you headed in such a rush? Rose asked. Andre felt a pang as he thought about the flight that was now surely taking off without him. I was supposed to go to Atlanta for a job interview tomorrow morning. Was? Rose picked up on his word choice immediately, her eyes widening. Oh dear, did I make you miss your flight? Don't worry about it, Andre said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. There might be another one tonight. He knew there wasn't. He'd checked all the options before booking this one. When they reached baggage claim, the area was less crowded than the terminals above. Andre scanned the space, looking for someone who might be searching for Rose. Mom, there you are. A woman about Andre's age hurried toward them, relief evident on her face. I've been looking everywhere for you. Why didn't you answer your phone? Lisa, dear, I tried, but you know I can't figure out this thing. Rose embraced her daughter, then turned to Andre. This kind young man helped me when my suitcase fell over and then walked me all the way here. Lisa turned to Andre with grateful eyes. Thank you so much. I went to the wrong terminal first, and then security wouldn't let me go up without a boarding pass. She shook her head. I was about to ask them to make an announcement. It's no problem, Andre said, handing over Rose's suitcase. I'm glad you found each other. Rose touched his arm. But your flight, dear? Your interview? Lisa looked confused, but Andre just shook his head. I'll figure something out. What interview? Lisa asked. He was rushing to catch a flight to Atlanta for a job interview tomorrow, and he missed it because of me, Rose explained, distress clear in her voice. Oh no, Lisa said. I'm so sorry. Is there any way you can reschedule? Andre shrugged, trying to keep his disappointment from showing. I'll call them and see. Don't worry about it. But as he said goodbye and walked away, leaving Rose with her daughter, the weight of what had just happened settled on his shoulders. He had sacrificed his best job prospect in months to help a stranger. His apartment buzzer had been broken for weeks, and he'd spent his last $50 on the airport shuttle. What was he going to tell the hiring manager? What was he going to tell his landlord? Andre found a quiet spot near a window overlooking the runway and sank into an empty chair. Outside he could see a plane taking off, probably his flight to Atlanta. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and purple behind it, a beautiful backdrop to his unraveling plans. He pulled out his phone and drafted an email to the recruiter, explaining the situation and asking if a virtual interview might be possible. Even as he wrote it, he knew how it would sound. Missed flight. Helping elderly woman. It read like an excuse, not a valid reason. After hitting send, he leaned back and closed his eyes. Maybe his mom had been right about always doing the right thing, but she never mentioned how much the right thing could cost. Still, as Andre pictured Rose's relieved face when she saw her daughter, he couldn't bring himself to regret his choice. Tomorrow would bring its own problems. Tonight, he needed to figure out how to get home and what to do next. One step at a time, just like his father always said. Sometimes life's detours led to unexpected places. Andre just hoped this particular detour wouldn't lead straight to eviction. With a deep breath, he stood up, gathered his bag, and headed for the exit. The night air felt cool on his face as he stepped outside, a welcome relief after the stuffy airport. Whatever happened next, he had stayed true to himself. For tonight, that would have to be enough. Andre's phone buzzed in his pocket as he walked through the airport parking lot. He pulled it out, hoping it was the recruiter responding to his email. Instead, it was a text from his roommate, Dwayne. "How's Atlanta? Weather good?" Andre sighed, staring at the message. He hadn't even told Dwayne he'd missed the flight. What was the point? Dwayne had been listening to Andre's excited planning for days. The disappointment would come soon enough. The shuttle back to the city wouldn't arrive for another hour. Andre found a bench and sat down, his duffel bag between his feet. The weight of his decision pressed down on him like a physical thing. He'd given up a shot at financial stability to help a stranger. Part of him wanted to feel noble about it, but mostly he just felt scared. His phone buzzed again. This time it was an email notification. The recruiter. "Mr. Washington, I understand emergencies happen, but we have other candidates scheduled and cannot accommodate a virtual interview at this time. We'll keep your resume on file for future opportunities." Andre read the message twice, then let his phone drop into his lap. So that was that. 6 months of sending out resumes, networking, and hoping, all down the drain because he'd stopped to help someone. The irony wasn't lost on him. His mother had raised him to be kind, to help others, to be the type of man who made the world better. Right now, those lessons felt like lead weights around his ankles. As the evening grew darker, Andre found himself thinking about Rose. He hoped she was enjoying her time with her family, completely unaware of what her chance meeting with him had cost. He didn't blame her, how could he? She was just an old woman who needed help. It wasn't her fault the world was built in a way that made kindness expensive. The shuttle finally arrived, half empty and driven by a man who looked as tired as Andre felt. He climbed aboard, found a seat in the back, and leaned his head against the window. The city lights blurred past as they drove, and Andre closed his eyes, trying to think about what to do next. He must have dozed off because the driver had to call to him when they reached his stop. "Hey, buddy, this is you, right? Downtown station?" Andre blinked awake. "Yeah, thanks." His apartment was a 15-minute walk from the station. Normally he'd have taken the bus, but at this hour they only ran every 45 minutes. Besides, walking gave him time to think. The streets were quieter than usual. A light rain had started. Not enough to soak him, but enough to match his mood. Andre pulled up his hood and picked up his pace. One problem at a time, he told himself. Tonight he'd sleep. Tomorrow he'd start looking for more job opportunities. His phone rang, surprising him. No one called this late unless it was an emergency. "Hello?" he answered, not recognizing the number. "Is this Andre Washington?" A woman's voice, vaguely familiar. "Yes, who's this?" "This is Lisa, Rose's daughter? From the airport earlier today?" Andre stopped walking. "Oh, hi. Is everything okay with Rose?" "Yes, she's fine. She's sleeping now, but she couldn't stop talking about you all evening. The nice young man who missed his flight to help her." Lisa paused. "I asked her more about what happened, and I realized, you really did miss your flight because of us, didn't you?" Andre started walking again, slower now. "It's okay. These things happen." "No, it's not okay," Lisa said firmly. "My mother told me about your job interview. Were you able to reschedule?" "Not really. They're going with other candidates." Lisa made a distressed sound. "I'm so sorry. Listen, where are you now?" "Walking home from the bus station. In this rain?" "Let me come pick you up." "It's the least I can do." Andre was taken aback. "That's really not necessary. I'm almost home anyway. Please, I insist. My mother would never forgive me if I didn't help after what you did for her." "Really, it's fine," Andre said, uncomfortable with the idea of this stranger going out of her way for him now. "I appreciate the thought, but I'm good." There was a pause on the other end. "Okay, I understand. But can we at least meet tomorrow? I'd like to talk to you about something." "About what?" "A job opportunity, actually." Andre almost laughed. Was this some kind of cosmic joke? "Look, I appreciate it, but you don't have to do that. You don't owe me anything." "I know I don't," Lisa replied. "But my mother is an excellent judge of character, and she was very impressed with you. And as it happens, I work in human resources. My company has an opening that might suit your background. Can we just meet for coffee? No pressure, just a conversation." Andre stood at the corner of his street, rain dripping from his hood. On one hand, this seemed too convenient to be real. On the other, what did he have to lose? "Okay," he said finally. "Coffee tomorrow." They arranged to meet at a cafe, downtown at 10 a.m. Andre hung up, feeling a strange mix of skepticism and hope as he walked the final block to his apartment. building. The lobby lights flickered as always, and the elevator was out of service again. Andre climbed the 4 flights of stairs to his floor, his legs heavy with fatigue. When he reached his door, he found a notice taped to it. Final warning: rent due in 48 hours or eviction proceedings will begin. Andre pulled it down with a sigh and unlocked his door. The apartment was dark and quiet. Dwayne must have gone out. He dropped his duffel bag on the floor, kicked off his shoes, and collapsed onto the couch without bothering to turn on the lights. He should eat something, but the thought of getting up again was too much. Instead, he stared at the ceiling, watching the patterns of car headlights move across it as vehicles passed on the street below. What would his father have said about today? Probably something about how life rarely goes as planned but often goes as needed. His dad had been full of those kinds of sayings. Andre had found them annoying as a kid, but now he clung to them like lifelines. His phone buzzed with a text from Dwayne. "You land okay? How's the hotel?" Andre typed back a change of plans. "Still in town. Tell you later." He set an alarm for 8 a.m., giving himself plenty of time to prepare for the coffee meeting. He didn't want to get his hopes up. This was probably just Lisa trying to make herself feel better. But he couldn't help a small flicker of optimism. Sleep came quickly, deep and dreamless, the kind that comes after emotional exhaustion. Morning arrived with slanting sunlight through blinds he'd forgotten to close. Andre blinked awake, momentarily confused about why he was on the couch in yesterday's clothes. Then the events of the previous day flooded back. He showered quickly, put on his one good shirt, a navy button-up that his sister had given him for Christmas, and his least scuffed pair of shoes. He debated wearing a tie, then decided against it. This wasn't an interview, just coffee. Dwayne emerged from his bedroom as Andre was making a quick breakfast of toast and coffee. "I thought you were in Atlanta," he said, looking confused. "Long story." Andre took a bite of his toast. "Missed my flight helping an old lady at the airport. Interview got canceled." Dwayne winced. "Damn, man. That's rough. What are you going to do now?" "Meeting someone for coffee in an hour. Might be a job lead, might be nothing." Andre shrugged, trying to appear more casual than he felt. "That's weird timing," Dwayne said, pouring himself a coffee. "You miss your flight and immediately get another lead?" "It's connected. The old lady's daughter wants to meet me." Andre finished his toast and rinsed his plate. "Like I said, probably nothing, but worth checking out." "Well, good luck." Dwayne raised his mug in a toast. "Maybe the universe is looking out for you after all." "Maybe," Andre said, though he didn't believe in that sort of thing. The universe had never seemed particularly concerned with his welfare before. He left the apartment with 30 minutes to spare, deciding to walk to clear his head. The morning was bright and cool after last night's rain, the city washed clean and shining. For the first time since yesterday afternoon, Andre felt something like peace. Whatever happened with this coffee meeting, he'd figure things out. He always did. The cafe was busy with the morning rush when he arrived. Professionals grabbing coffee before work, students with laptops spread across small tables. Andre scanned the crowd, realizing he didn't know what Lisa looked like. He'd been so focused on Rose at the airport that he hadn't really paid attention to her daughter. "Andre?" He turned to find a woman about his age standing near the door, dressed in a tailored pantsuit. Her resemblance to Rose was subtle but unmistakable around the eyes. "Lisa?" he asked, extending his hand. She shook it firmly. "Thanks for meeting me. Let's find a table." They settled in a quiet corner with their coffees. Andre waited for her to speak first, curious about this supposed job opportunity but not wanting to seem too eager. "I want to be upfront with you," Lisa began, stirring her latte. "When my mother told me what happened yesterday, I felt terrible. Then she told me you work in marketing, and it seemed like, well, like one of those moments where things line up in a strange way." Andre nodded, sipping his coffee. "I'm the HR director at BrightPath Solutions. We're a mid-sized tech company, and we've been trying to fill a marketing position for weeks. Our requirements are pretty specific, and finding the right fit has been challenging." She pulled out her phone. "Do you have a resume you could email me?" Andre felt a flutter of genuine hope. "Yeah, of course." He took out his phone and forwarded her the same resume he'd sent to the Atlanta company. Lisa's phone dinged, and she glanced at the screen. "Got it. I'll look it over properly later, but from what my mother told me about you, I think you might be exactly what we're looking for." Andre tried to keep his expression neutral as Lisa scrolled through his resume on her phone. This whole situation felt surreal. Yesterday, he'd missed his flight and lost what seemed like his best job opportunity in months. Today, he was sitting across from a hiring manager who'd sought him out specifically. "Your experience is actually impressive," Lisa said, looking up. 3 years at Phoenix Marketing and then freelance work? That's a solid background. Thanks, Andre said, warming his hands on his coffee cup. Phoenix was a good company to learn the ropes, but they downsized last year. I've been piecing things together since then. And what was the position in Atlanta? Content marketing manager for a tech startup. Good salary, benefits, the works. Andre tried to keep the regret out of his voice, but honestly I knew it was a long shot. They had over 100 applicants. Lisa nodded thoughtfully. Well, their loss could be our gain. Let me tell you about our position. She explained that BrightPath Solutions developed software for healthcare providers. They needed someone to oversee their marketing strategy, particularly as they launched a new patient management platform. The role would combine content creation, social media management, and some event planning. We're not as flashy as some tech companies, she admitted, but we're stable, growing steadily, and our work actually helps people. Something in her description resonated with Andre. His previous marketing jobs had felt hollow, selling products people didn't need or couldn't afford. This sounded more meaningful. "What's the timeline for filling the position?" he asked, trying not to sound too eager. "We've been searching for about a month. The team needs help now, so we're motivated to move quickly with the right candidate." Lisa took a sip of her coffee. "Would you be interested in coming in this afternoon to meet the director of communications? He'd be your direct supervisor." Andre blinked in surprise. "Today? Is that too soon? I could try for tomorrow if you have other commitments." Andre thought about the eviction notice on his door. He had exactly 2 days to come up with the rent money or start looking for somewhere else to live. "Today works fine." "Great, how's 2 o'clock? Lisa pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. "Here's the address and my cell number. Dress is business casual. No need for anything formal." Andre tucked the card into his pocket, still feeling slightly dazed by how quickly things were moving. "I appreciate this opportunity, really." Lisa's expression softened. "I should be thanking you. My mother lives alone across the country. The thought of her struggling in that busy airport with no one stopping to help." She shook her head. "People like you are rare, Andre. My mom's a good judge of character and she couldn't stop talking about you all evening." A knot formed in Andre's throat. He wasn't used to being noticed, let alone praised, especially not for something that had seemed like such a small act at the time. "Anyone would have done the same," he said. "That's where you're wrong," Lisa replied firmly. "Most people wouldn't have missed their flight. Most wouldn't have taken the time." She gathered her things and stood up. "I'll see you at 2. The address is on the card." After she left, Andre sat for a while, staring into his coffee. Was this really happening? It seemed too convenient, too perfect. Things like this didn't happen to him. There had to be a catch. He pulled out his phone to research BrightPath Solutions. If this was some kind of scam, he'd find out now before getting his hopes up. But the company appeared legitimate. Their website was professional. They had good reviews on employment sites, and their social media presence was active and established. By noon, Andre was back at his apartment ironing his best button-down shirt. Dwayne had left for his shift at the grocery store, but had texted a thumbs up when Andre shared the news about the interview. As he got dressed, Andre tried to calm his nerves. This wasn't just an interview. It felt like a lifeline being thrown to him just when he was about to go under. He couldn't afford to mess it up. The eviction notice sat on his kitchen counter, a harsh reminder of what was at stake. Even if he got this job, the first paycheck wouldn't arrive in time to stop the eviction process. He'd need to talk to his landlord, explain the situation, beg for more time. The thought made his stomach churn. BrightPath's offices were located in a glass-fronted building downtown, not far from where he and Lisa had met for coffee. It wasn't as imposing as some corporate headquarters, but it was clean and professional. A security guard in the lobby checked his ID and directed him to the 11th floor. When the elevator doors opened, Andre was greeted by a reception desk with the company's logo displayed behind it, a stylized path leading to a rising sun. "I'm here to see Lisa Chen," he told the receptionist, a young woman with bright red glasses. "You must be Andre," she replied with a smile. "Lisa mentioned you'd be coming." I'll let her know you're here." Less than a minute later, Lisa appeared, looking even more professional than she had that morning. "Right on time," she said, shaking his hand. "Let me introduce you to the team." The next hour was a whirlwind of names, faces, and questions. Andre met the director of communications, a friendly man named David who asked thoughtful questions about Andre's experience and approach to marketing. Then there was the content team, 2 writers and a graphic designer who seemed enthusiastic about possibly getting some management support. The office itself was open and airy, with plants on desks and large windows offering a view of the city. People looked focused but not stressed, which Andre took as a good sign. "So what do you think?" Lisa asked after the formal part of the interview ended. They were standing by a window in a small break room, cups of water in hand. "It seems like a great company," Andre said honestly. "The team is clearly talented. I'd be honored to work with them." Lisa smiled. "They liked you too. David was impressed by your portfolio, especially that campaign you did for the local restaurant." Andre felt a flutter of hope. That campaign had been small, just helping a neighborhood place increase their takeout orders during a slow period. But he was proud of the results. "So what happens next?" he asked. "We have one more candidate to interview tomorrow morning," Lisa explained. "After that, we'll make our decision. You should hear from me by tomorrow afternoon either way." Andre nodded, trying to hide his disappointment. He'd hoped for something more definitive today. Another day of waiting and wondering. Another day closer to eviction. "I understand," he said. "Thank you again for the opportunity." As they walked back toward the reception area, Lisa lowered her voice. "Off the record, I think you're exactly what we're looking for. But we have to follow the process." Andre appreciated her honesty. "Of course." Outside the building, Andre checked the time, just after 4. The afternoon had flown by, leaving him with a strange mix of hope and anxiety. The interview had gone well, but nothing was certain yet. His phone rang as he was walking to the bus stop. It was his landlord. "Mr. Washington, I assume you've seen the notice?" Andre took a deep breath. "Yes, sir. I was actually hoping to talk to you about that. I may have a job lined up, but I need a little more time for the first paycheck." "I've heard that before," the landlord said, his voice tinged with skepticism. "I've been patient, but business is business. I know, and I appreciate your patience. If you could just give me one more week." "The notice says 48 hours. Andre stopped walking, his free hand clenching at his side. "Mr. Reeves, I've been a good tenant for 3 years. Never caused any problems, kept the place clean. This job is real, and it's good. I just need a little more time." There was a long pause on the other end. "1 week, the landlord said finally. "Not a day more. And I'll need half the amount by Friday as good faith." Half was still more than Andre had in his account, but it was better than the full amount. "I'll make it work." "Thank you." He hung up and leaned against a nearby building, relief and pressure competing in his chest. One problem temporarily solved, but the clock was still ticking. He needed this job more than ever. That night, Andre couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, replaying every moment of the interview in his mind, analyzing his answers, wondering if he could have said something different, something better. The other candidate might have more experience or a fancier degree. They might click better with the team or be willing to work for less. Around 3 in the morning, he gave up on sleep and sat at his small kitchen table with a cup of tea. The apartment was quiet except for the occasional car passing on the street below and the soft hum of the refrigerator. "You did your best," he told himself softly. "That's all you can do." But his best hadn't been enough many times before. The world didn't care about your best. It cared about results. And right now, Andre needed results, a job, a paycheck, a way to keep his home. As dawn broke over the city, Andre finally dozed off on the couch, his phone clutched in his hand, waiting for a call that wouldn't come for several more hours, a call that might change everything or confirm that his act of kindness had indeed cost him more than he could afford. Morning came with no mercy for Andre's tired eyes. He'd barely slept, and what little rest he'd managed had been filled with anxious dreams. The clock on his phone showed 7:15 a.m., too early to expect any news about the job, but too late to get any real sleep before the day began. He dragged himself to the shower, hoping the cold water would clear his head. As he stood under the stream, he tried to quiet his mind. Worrying wouldn't change anything. Either he'd get the job or he wouldn't. Either he'd find a way to pay his rent or he'd be looking for a new place to live. The wheel was already in motion. Dwayne was in the kitchen when Andre emerged, dressed in the same clothes he'd worn yesterday since they were still clean enough. "You look like you got hit by a truck," Dwayne said, pushing a cup of coffee toward him. "Rough night?" "Couldn't sleep," Andre admitted, taking the coffee gratefully. "Too much on my mind. The job? That, the rent, everything." Dwayne leaned against the counter. "I wish I could help more, man. If my sister hadn't lost her job, I'd ask her for a loan." "It's not your problem," Andre said. "I'll figure something out." "When do you hear back about the position?" "Today, supposedly." Andre checked his phone again, a habit he couldn't seem to break. No new messages. "Sometime this afternoon." "Well, I'm pulling for you," Dwayne said, grabbing his jacket. "I've got a double shift today, so I won't be back till late. Text me if you hear anything." Andre nodded, and Dwayne left for work, leaving him alone in the quiet apartment. The silence felt heavy, filled with all the worries he was trying not to voice aloud. To keep himself from obsessively checking his phone, Andre decided to be proactive. He opened his laptop and began searching for backup options. Other job listings, temporary gigs, even places he might be able to stay if the eviction went through. None of the options were great, but having a plan B, even a bad one, was better than nothing. By noon, he'd applied to 7 more positions, set up an account on a gig work app, and found 2 friends who might be able to let him crash on their couches temporarily if needed. It wasn't much, but it was something. His phone rang, startling him so badly he nearly knocked over his water glass. The screen showed Lisa's number. Andre's heart pounded as he answered. "Hello? Andre, it's Lisa Chen." Her voice gave nothing away. "Do you have a minute to talk?" "Of course." He stood up, suddenly unable to sit still. "I've got time." "Great. I wanted to let you know that we've completed our interviews and made our decision." Andre closed his eyes. Bracing himself, "We'd like to offer you the position." For a moment, Andre couldn't speak. The words seemed to echo in his mind, too good to be true. "Andre, are you there?" "Yes, sorry. I'm here." He cleared his throat. That's amazing news. Thank you. We were impressed with your experience, but more than that, with your approach and attitude. The team felt you'd be a good fit culturally, and that's important to us." "I appreciate that." Andre's voice was steadier now. "When would you like me to start?" "How about Monday? That would give you a few days to prepare and, yes, time to get your paperwork processed. The starting salary is $65,000 annually, with benefits beginning after 30 days. Does that work for you?" It was more than the Atlanta position had offered. Much more than Andre had dared to hope for. "That works perfectly." "Excellent. I'll email you the formal offer letter and details about Monday. Plan to arrive around 9 a.m. and we'll handle orientation first thing." After they hung up, Andre stood in the middle of his living room, the phone still in his hand. He'd done it. Against all odds, he had a job. A good job with a decent salary and benefits. All because he'd stopped to help an elderly woman at the airport. The first person he called was his landlord. "Mr. Reeves, it's Andre Washington. I got the job. I start Monday and I should have the first paycheck in 2 weeks. Is there any way I could pay the full amount then, instead of half by Friday?" The landlord was silent for a moment. "Congratulations on the job," he said finally. "But I still need that half payment by Friday. I've got bills too, you know." Andre's elation dimmed slightly. "I understand. I'll figure it out." His next call was to his older brother, Thomas. They weren't especially close. Thomas lived across the country with his wife and kids, but Andre knew his brother would help if he could. "Hey, little brother," Thomas answered. "This is a surprise. Everything okay?" "Actually, things are looking up. I just got a job offer. That's great news." "Where at?" Andre filled him in on Bright Path and what had happened at the airport. "So you're telling me you missed your flight to help some old lady, and then her daughter just happened to offer you a better job than the one you missed?" Thomas sounded skeptical. "That's some movie-level coincidence. I know how it sounds, but it's real. I start Monday." "Well, congrats. So what's the catch?" "There's always a catch when you call me." Andre winced. Their relationship had been strained ever since their father died. Thomas had stepped up, helping their mother with bills and keeping Andre on track through college. But once Andre graduated, Thomas seemed to expect him to have everything figured out and wasn't shy about expressing disappointment when that didn't happen. "I need to borrow some money," Andre admitted, "just until my first paycheck. I'm behind on rent and they're threatening eviction." Thomas sighed heavily. How much? 600 would cover half, which is what I need by Friday. I can pay you back in 3 weeks once I get paid. I'll transfer it tonight. But Andre, this is the last time. You need to get your finances in order. I know, and I will. This job is going to change things. After hanging up, Andre felt a mix of gratitude and resentment. He hated asking his brother for money, hated the judgment that always came with it, but pride wouldn't keep a roof over his head. With the immediate crisis averted, Andre allowed himself to truly celebrate his new job. He treated himself to a decent takeout dinner, the first non-ramen meal he'd had in weeks, and called his mother to share the good news. I always knew things would work out for you, she said, her voice warm with pride. Your father used to say that kindness finds its way back to you eventually. I guess he was right this time, Andre replied, smiling at the memory of his dad's sayings. Across town, in a cozy suburban house, Rose sat in the guest bedroom, looking through old photo albums. Her visit with her daughter's family had been wonderful so far, but something had been nagging at her since their trip from the airport. Mom, you've been awfully quiet, Lisa said, coming in with a cup of tea. Everything okay? Rose accepted the tea gratefully. I was just thinking about that young man from the airport. Andre, you said he got the job. He did. Started today, actually. The team already loves him. Lisa sat on the edge of the bed. Why? I can't stop thinking about what he gave up to help me. A job interview, you said? That he really needed? Yes, but it worked out better this way. The position we offered pays more than the one in Atlanta would have. Rose nodded, but her expression remained troubled. Still, he didn't know that would happen when he stopped to help me. He just did the right thing at great personal cost. She turned to her daughter. I'd like to meet him properly. Thank him face to face. Lisa looked surprised. I could introduce you sometime, maybe after work one day. No. Rose shook her head firmly. I want to go to his home. I want him to know that I understand what he did for me and that I appreciate it. His home? Mom, I don't know if that's appropriate. I'm his boss now. Then I'll go by myself. You said he lives downtown? Do you have his address from the HR paperwork? Lisa frowned. I can't just give you an employee's address. That's private information. Then I'll ask him myself when I come visit you at the office, Rose said stubbornly. This is important to me, Lisa. That young man showed me kindness when no one else would. I want to return that kindness. Seeing that her mother wouldn't be deterred, Lisa sighed. Let me talk to him first, okay? If he's comfortable with it, then I'll arrange something. Rose smiled, satisfied for now. That's all I ask. And Lisa, make sure he knows I'm not just being a nosy old woman. I have something important to discuss with him. What is it? Lisa asked, curious. Rose patted her daughter's hand. Just a little wisdom from someone who's lived a long time. Sometimes a thank you needs to be more than just words. The next morning, Andre arrived at Brightpath for his first day of work. His new office was small but had a window, and his coworkers went out of their way to make him feel welcome. By lunchtime, he was already diving into projects, reviewing their current marketing materials and making notes on potential improvements. As he ate the sandwich he'd packed, budget still tight until payday, Lisa stopped by his office. How's the first day going? She asked. Great, Andre replied honestly. Everyone's been really helpful. I think I'm going to like it here. Good. Lisa seemed slightly distracted. Listen, I have an odd request. My mother is in town visiting me and she's been asking about you. She'd like to thank you properly for your help at the airport. That's really not necessary, Andre said. I was happy to help. I know, but it would mean a lot to her. She's pretty persistent when she sets her mind to something. Lisa smiled fondly. Would it be okay if she visited you at home? She's old-fashioned that way, believes in expressing gratitude in person. Andre was surprised but touched by the request. Sure, that would be fine. My place isn't fancy, but she's welcome anytime. How about tomorrow evening? Around 6? Works for me. As Lisa left, Dre wondered why Rose felt so strongly about thanking him in person. Their interaction at the airport had been brief, and in his mind, any debt had been more than repaid with this job. Opportunity. Little did he know that Rose had her own plans for their meeting, plans that would once again shift the course of his life in ways he couldn't imagine. Andre spent the next day in a strange state of anticipation. His second day at work went even better than the first. He was already developing a good rapport with the marketing team and had impressed David with his ideas for their upcoming product launch. Yet he couldn't stop thinking about Rose's planned visit that evening. He left work at 5, rushing home to clean his apartment. It wasn't much, a modest 2-bedroom in an older building, but it was his home and he wanted it to look presentable. Dwayne was working another evening shift, which was probably for the best. Explaining why his new boss's elderly mother was coming over would have led to questions Andre wasn't sure how to answer. He swept the floors, wiped down surfaces, and even found a forgotten box of cookies in the pantry that he arranged on a plate. The whole situation felt surreal. 2 days ago, he'd been facing eviction and unemployment. Now he had a good job, and the woman he'd helped at the airport was coming to his home. At precisely 6 o'clock, the buzzer rang. The building's intercom had been broken for months, so Andre hurried downstairs to open the front door. Rose stood there looking much as she had at the airport, though less frazzled. Lisa was beside her holding a small gift bag. "Good evening," Andre said, suddenly feeling oddly formal. "Please come in." He led them up the 4 flights of stairs, apologizing for the broken elevator. "Don't you worry about that," Rose said, taking each step with determination. "These old legs still work just fine." When they reached his apartment, Andre felt a flash of embarrassment. The place was clean but worn, paint peeling in corners, furniture that had seen better days. But neither Rose nor Lisa seemed to notice or care. "Thank you for having us," Lisa said, handing him the gift bag. "Just a small housewarming present. For the new job." Inside was a potted plant, some kind of leafy green thing that Andre hoped was hard to kill, and a bottle of sparkling cider. "That's very thoughtful," he said, genuinely touched. "Please make yourselves comfortable." Rose settled onto his couch, looking around with interest. "This reminds me of my first apartment after I married Harold, my late husband. Not much to look at, but it was ours." Andre offered them drinks and the cookies he'd found, which they politely accepted. For a few minutes, they made small talk about his job and how he was settling in. Then Rose set down her glass with a purposeful movement. "Now, young man, I didn't come here just to make small talk, though that's been lovely." Her eyes, sharp despite her age, fixed on him with unexpected intensity. "I came to thank you properly." "There's no need," Andre began, but Rose held up a hand to stop him. "There absolutely is a need. Do you know how many people walked past me in that airport? Dozens, maybe hundreds. No one stopped. No one even looked at me twice." Her voice was steady, but emotion underlined her words. "Except you. You not only stopped, but you gave up something important to help me." Andre shifted uncomfortably under her gaze. "Anyone would have—" "No," Rose interrupted again, more firmly this time. "That's what people always say, but it's not true. Not everyone would have done what you did. I've lived long enough to know that kindness like yours is special." Lisa watched the exchange quietly, a small smile on her face. "When Lisa told me what you'd sacrificed," Rose continued, "I couldn't stop thinking about it. Here was a young man who put a stranger's needs above his own, with no expectation of reward. That's rare in this world, Andre. Very rare." She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. "Harold and I were married for 52 years before he passed. He was a lot like you, always helping others, never asking for anything in return. He built a good life for us, and when he died, he left me well provided for." Andre watched with growing confusion as she held out the envelope to him. "This is a check," Rose said plainly, "for $25,000. Andre's eyes widened in shock.
What?
"No, I can't accept that." "You can and you will," Rose said with a firmness that brooked no argument. "I'm an old woman with more money than time left to spend it. Harold would have wanted it this way." Andre looked to Lisa, hoping for support, but she just nodded encouragingly. "She's been planning this since the airport," Lisa explained. "Once I told her about your situation, the missed flight, the almost eviction, she was determined to help. But the job," Andre protested. "You've already helped me more than I could have imagined." "The job you earned on your own merit," Lisa said firmly. "I wouldn't have hired you if you weren't qualified." "This is different. This is my mother's decision." Rose leaned forward, still holding out the envelope. "Young man, let me tell you something about life that took me decades to learn. Sometimes the universe sends us exactly what we need, but rarely in the package we expect. That day in the airport, you were what I needed, and now perhaps I'm what you need." Andre stared at the envelope, emotions warring inside him. Pride told him to refuse. Practicality reminded him of his empty bank account, his debt to his brother, the years of financial struggle. "I don't know what to say," he admitted finally. "Say thank you and take it," Rose said simply. "Use it to build a stable life. Pay off debts, start a savings account, whatever you need." With shaking hands, Andre accepted the envelope. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how I'll ever repay this." "You already have," Rose replied softly, "by being the kind of person who stops to help an old woman when no one else will. All I ask is that you remember this moment. Someday, when you're in a position to help someone else, do it without hesitation." The three of them talked for another hour. Rose shared stories about her late husband, about raising Lisa as a single mother after he died, about the values she'd tried to instill in her children and grandchildren. Andre found himself opening up too, telling them about his parents, his struggle to find stable work, his dreams for the future. By the time Rose and Lisa left, something had shifted in Andre. It wasn't just the check, though that would indeed change his immediate circumstances dramatically. It was the reminder that goodness, however small it might seem in the moment, mattered, that sometimes the universe noticed. The next morning, Andre went to the bank before work and deposited the check. It felt almost unreal watching his account balance change, knowing he could now pay back his brother, settle his rent, and still have a cushion for the future. At work, he treated Lisa no differently, and she did the same. What had happened was between him and Rose, separate from their professional relationship. But sometimes, when they passed in the hallway, they shared a smile that acknowledged their unusual connection. Over the following months, Andre thrived in his new position. The financial security from Rose's gift allowed him to focus fully on his work without the constant stress of living paycheck to paycheck. He moved to a better apartment, started building savings, and even began taking night classes to expand his marketing skills. He kept his promise to Rose, too. When his new building held a fundraiser for a family who had lost everything in a fire, Andre was the first to contribute. When a new employee struggled to find affordable childcare, he connected them with a community program he'd researched. Small acts of kindness offered without expectation of return. 6 months after Rose's visit, Andre received a holiday card from her. Inside was a photo of her with her family, including Lisa, all smiling in matching sweaters. On the back, in shaky handwriting, was a simple message. "The kindness you showed me was like a stone thrown into still water. The ripples continue long after the initial splash. Never underestimate the impact of a single act of compassion. With gratitude and affection, Rose." Andre pinned the card to his refrigerator where he would see it every day. It served as a reminder of how quickly life could change, how a missed flight that had seemed like disaster had actually been the first step on an unexpected path to something better. Sometimes, when he was rushing through his day, focused on deadlines and meetings, he would stop and think about that moment in the airport, how close he had come to walking past Rose like everyone else, how different his life would be if he had. In those moments, Andre would take a deep breath and remind himself to pay attention to the world around him, to look for opportunities to help, to connect, to show kindness, because you never knew when a small act might create ripples that would change someone's life, including your own.